Unity we lift our song, oh grateful adoration. For those brave saints and siblings strong, what cause for celebration? For those whose faithfulness has kept us through this race, who shared with us our plight, who had us in the night, the blessed congregation. For stories told and told again to every generation, to give us strength in time of pain, to give us consolation, our spirit to revise, to keep our dreams alive when we are far from home and evil seasons come. Our form is our foundation. For sacred scriptures handed down, our blessed trust and treasure, which give us hope, and hope is gone, and make us weep with pleasure. And when our eyes grow blind, and death is close behind, we shall recite them still, who our hearts can feel, with hope beyond all measure. Our bread, our rest, of all these gifts the giver. Our strength, our God, our nurturing breast, who and will yet deliver. Who keeps us till the day when I shall pass away, when head and fears are gone, and all our work is done, and we shall sing forever.
Good evening. Welcome to this service of matriculation, a great celebration at the beginning of our school year. Before we start the ceremony, let's join our hearts in a moment of focusing. Come, Spirit of Truth, come. Keep our feet firmly on the ground as our heads touch the skies. Keep our sight clear and our ears tuned to voices different from our own. Keep our words true and our hearts and minds open. Keep our hands empty to fill need, and our arms spread wide to embrace possibilities. Keep our minds open to new ideas and perspectives, that we might join in this educational journey, trusting that we will depart differently than we arrived. Come, Spirit of Justice, come. May our gifts be revealed to us in this time, that we might do the most excellent actions in your world, to gladden the hearts of human beings and protect the earth we live in, to fill the hungry, lift up the afflicted, lighten the sorrowful, free the fearful, release the suffering. Empower and encourage us, Spirit of grace, that we may liberate that which has been given to us for the good of the whole, so that justice and joy might come to this great world, that we would complete the circle that is your fullness of life. Come, Spirit of light, come, shine on us and through us this day and on all days, that we may step out in courage and in love. May it be so. Amen. You may be seated.
Welcome guests, welcome faculty, staff, returning students, and especially all new students starting in fall 2023. We appreciate all of you here in Craig Chapel. We appreciate all of you joining us online. Matriculation at Drew University Theological School is a time to celebrate beginnings. We mark the beginning of the new academic year, at the start of a new semester. We welcome new colleagues and new students. And in this service of matriculation, we pause to consider the importance of our starting on this path of learning together, a path that so many others have walked before us. As we begin this new year, listed in our program are the names of those who have just started their studies here at Drew and will soon come to this special book. Additionally, I want to mark that we welcome 3 new members of the faculty. Elaine Noguera-Gotzi, Assistant Professor of Religion and Society. Dong-Song Kim, Assistant Professor of Hebrew Bible. And Alice Kim, Assistant Teaching Professor of Constructive Theology and Louisville Institute Postdoctoral Fellow. We are so glad that you are here with us. We are also honored that the new president of Drew University, Dr. Hilary Link, has joined us for this important moment in the life of the Theological School. President Link will bring her own words of welcome from the university.
Good afternoon or evening, wherever you're all joining us from. I am Hilary Link, president of Drew University. I am thrilled to welcome you all to this meaningful and special celebration of the opening of the academic year. I hope by now that you're settling into your new life as a Drew student, finding a sense of home regardless of where you're joining us from, and delving into your studies and practice in ways that bring you joy and inspiration. Students have been coming to Drew's beautiful campus in the forest since 1867, when it first opened as a Methodist seminary. You all now walk in their footsteps, as do we all. As I told the new undergraduates at their opening ceremony last Friday, having only arrived as president myself in early July, I join those of you new students in learning my way around campus, finding favorite spots for contemplation or walking, and working to make this place a home for me and for my family. On one level, it may seem funny for me, a woman of the Jewish faith, to be here addressing you all in this chapel, and perhaps for me even to be president of a university that has a Methodist seminary as its foundation. But to me, being here with all of you is not at all at odds with the thinker, leader, and person I am. And it's certainly not at odds with the scholarship that has defined my career and my life. As a medieval and Renaissance Italian literature scholar, I'm steeped in the history, art, literature, and early thinkers of Christianity. And as you'll hear me say often in the future, the Renaissance thinkers are truly the model for the type of complex, intersectional, and multi-lens thinking we all have to do today to address society's ever-increasing complexities. At the core of the medieval and Renaissance education, which has evolved into what we today call the liberal arts, is the same approach you are all experiencing here at Drew University's Theological School, one that prepares you for a vocation and for a life well lived, one that teaches critical thinking and problem solving, to go beyond the obvious and to think outside the box, one that gives you the space to and prepares you to lean into the sense of purpose or calling that has brought you here. So a warm welcome to all as you begin this journey of thinking, learning, and following your vocation. You have been called here to learn, just as I have been called here to learn and to serve. I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you all.
Good evening. Our first reading is from book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verses 3 through 5. A voice cries out, "In the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a way for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain. Then the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all people shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken." This is the word of God for the people of God.
The second reading is from Acts chapter 19, verses 23 to 27. About that time, no little disturbance broke out concerning the way. A man named Demetrius, a silversmith who made silver shrines of Artemis, brought no little business to the artisans. These he gathered together with the workers of the same trade and said, "Men, you know that we get our wealth from this business. You also see and hear that not only in Ephesus, but in almost the whole of Asia, this Paul has persuaded and drawn away a considerable number of people by saying that gods made with hands are not gods. And there is danger not only that this trade of ours may come into disrepute, but also that the temple of the great goddess Artemis will be scorned, and she will be deprived of her majesty that brought all Asia and the world to worship her." This is the word of God.
I am deeply honored to introduce our speaker for this service of matriculation. The Reverend Dr. Gary V. Simpson is Associate Professor of Preaching and Pastoral Formation, and at the same time, he is the Senior Pastor of the historic Concord Baptist Church of Christ in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, you can ow at that. Dr. Simpson earned the Doctor of Ministry from United Theological Seminary, the MDiv from Union Theological Seminary, and BA from Denison University. His address for today is entitled, "Funny Thing Happened on the Way." Dr. Simpson, may God bless you as you tell us about that.
Well, I want to get to the heart of this talk as soon as possible. It's hot. I want to share with you an experience I had while these ideas were percolating in me over the last few weeks. I was in the grocery store picking up a few items. I am now shopping as I remember what I was supposed to get. I am more of a hunter and gatherer in the grocery store than a systemic, meticulous, aisle-by-aisle browser. No sooner than I got into the store, I came face to face, cart to cart, with a man who was coming in. I looked at him and I said, "Oh, pardon me," got off to the side, and he went on by, and I went my way, trying to remember what the next thing was. Well, we actually bumped into each other 3 times in the grocery store. The third time, as I was walking to him, I started laughing and chuckling. I said, "We just keep bumping into each other." To which he said, "Yes, one of us is going the wrong way." With what certainty did he speak that? There were no signs on any aisles, as there were during the pandemic. You go up this aisle and back, they were all gone. Somehow, it was conceived and articulated that somebody must be doing something wrong if we keep bumping into each other. I thought about that. That idea disturbed me. President Link, Provost Lakin, Dean Aponte, Associate Deans, fellow faculty members, support staff, returning students, and most of all, this community of newly enrolled Druids, to each of you and your families, I am happy for this privilege to address you today. I realize that whenever I stand, somebody thinks there's going to be a sermon. I hate that. I am not preaching today. I saw the publicity for this matriculation ceremony, and it said, "You are to be formally addressed by Gary Simpson." Well, I shan't be formal. I am not sure that I'm going to do that either. I just want to talk to you about our time together, sharing with each other on this way. I could tell you that I'm embarking on a very significant project in my life and in the life of my denomination, the Progressive National Baptist Convention. We were one of the first 30 institutions invited to receive the compelling preaching grant from the Lilly Foundation. I agreed just before sabbatical started to write that grant, and while sabbatical started, we got that grant. And after that, the president said, you are going to run this, aren't you? I was just trying to write a grant and get out. But now, as the program director for the Compelling Preaching Initiative of the Progressive National Baptist Convention, the only thing I will say about it is that my program associate is a Drew graduate and a former student. And I will have the privilege in 3 days, to be the installation preacher at her service as the pastor of the First Baptist Church in Inglewood. I'm excited. I have been a part of a research group of black scholars and pastors for the last 3 years, convened at Duke Divinity in the Office of Black Church Studies. We are writing about the history and genius of black pastoral leadership from Reconstruction in America to the Reagan era. I am writing about the Reconstruction period and the interesting intersection between complexity theory and distributive intelligence. While in the pandemic, I became a student, more of a student, I should say, in the pulpit where I am now serving. I transcribed handwritten sermons, about 30 of them from my predecessor's predecessor from 1926 to 1946. And I'm continuing to understand what it means to be a pastor and to have such great and grand pastoral company. My own scholarship project continues to haunt me as I search for leads about what preaching ought to be right now. My guiding spirit is Prathia Hall, whose preaching started, actually her public speaking started in the civil rights movement as a leader of SNCC. And she was the only person that Martin King said he did not want to follow on the platform. In fact, I Have a Dream is a take on a riff from Prathia's work. But her idea of freedom of faith has allowed me to think of a new way and methodology and design for preaching that does not assume what some church people are thinking, that activists are void of any interest in spirituality. Simply put, the purpose and responsibility of preaching right now is to imagine and create spaces or usher people into freedom in an otherwise confining, constricting, enslaving world. The sole job of the preacher is to allow the listeners, if but for a little while, to taste the joy, the affirmation, the empowerment that freedom brings. I think it's at least incomplete thought, if not irresponsible talk, to speak about what we are believing, thinking, knowing, and feeling after we are coming out of this moment of being separated from each other, sequestered, quarantined by the global health crisis and pandemic. It is true that no church is what it was in February of 2020. I'm not suggesting that that is a bad thing. I just want to make the point that those 3.5 years were and still remain to be a defining moment for us as a full-time pastor simultaneously. There was no time for us to, in that separation, to think about going back to anything. We're not going back. Every church is planting now. The work of trying to figure out how to do that work, of building sustainable communities that can withstand the assaults on human dignity and integrity, and of continuous assault on marginalized peoples and marginalized communities. Every Sunday, I'm trying to make a little dent in the forces that would conspire to have us dead. So my talk to you is just to say, as you work, believe, think, write, compose, laugh, weep, hear, understand that we are each on our way somewhere. So what does all of this have to do with you and the text I've been asked to read? We're in a world on this planet that may be giving its last gasp for air. Lungs clogged, cannot breathe, sight is limited, bones and organs are weakening, mentally not well. Over and above all of that, we are in denial that something is wrong, not only with our climate, but with us. Howsoever, I look at you, and I am excited about the diverse minds, bodies, perspectives, experiences, orientations, locations that make up this community. It is a sobering reminder every time we get together that we are not all the same. That is also a reminder that we should not just pay attention to our diversity, but this may be our best opportunity to learn before we die. The two texts I chose, the first one, grand and glorious prophetic pronouncement, was kind of get to what might be your reason for coming here. Those of us who come to this school and schools like this, as opposed to schools that will make us an exorbitant amount of money when we graduate and make us comfortable. We have decided to come to this uncomfortable place. We are driven by something, whether it is an idea that deserves systematic writing in a dissertation, or how to learn to be a pastor. All around us as we are doing these things are hurting and broken people whose challenges compel us to do something for the good. Every one of us would claim some aspect of that prophetic dimension, that we are here to prepare the way, and that we are doing it in a desert. Not soon after the death of Christ, the group of people who were following him, we're not sure what they were doing. They were not sure. It intrigues me about the Acts passage that we read, that there was not a funny thing going on there, but tensions that arose because they were still trying to figure out who they were and what they were in relationship to other people in other communities of faith and practice who were trying also to do the same. They were not yet an institution. They did not have ordination councils, did not have ordination exams, did not require fluency in 2 or 3 languages, did not make one sit for comp exams, did not make one defend oneself. They were not an institution, they were a movement. And the movement was simply called the Way. As we lean into the 22nd century, we long for less institutionality and a simpler way of life. Isn't it interesting that historically we may be somewhere between these two passages of thinking that we should prepare the way and being people of the way? Whatever, and that's what we have to figure out. That's what you have to figure out while you're here. What does of the way mean? Let me suggest some things to get you started. The way is a way of love. The way is a way of justice, because you cannot love without justice, and you cannot have justice without love. The way is an inevitable and unavoidable way of change. I'm helped here by Octavia Butler in the parable of the sower. When the protagonist is writing sacred texts called earth notes, she comes up with this idea. Not that God is the one who changes things, but that God is change. the way is a way of hope. There's an article circulating in social media now about a pastor who left the work after serving for so many years. He becomes a part of what we have called in this pandemic period the Great Resignation. I get it. This is the worst of all times to do this work, it appears. Both academies and faith communities are in their own struggles, on their way somewhere. So, back to my friend in the store. Recognize that you are going to be running into and bumping into others repeatedly. In class, in the hallways, in your theological perspectives, in your biblical understandings, you are going to be bumping into people. And I think this is the danger of our culture right now. And that is when we bump into each other, we assume typically the other person is wrong, going the wrong way. What if instead of this adversarial, confrontational, polarizing, obstructionist posture, what if we intentionally wander and then wonder whether these moments of our intersections are opportunities for us to create a conversation, a dialogue, to be a community, to be people of the way, and a place that neither of us is wrong and neither of us is always right, but an opportunity for us to learn from each other. You have come into this theological school at a most inopportune time for seeing the models of this in public discourse. There is the assumption that if I am right, you are wrong. Our relationship is actually the way. We do not have certainty about all things we are becoming. We are here to leave. When we leave, some of us will be changed, will be different from the way we came in. I pray that we may not all see the difference in others, but see the genuine, authentic difference in ourselves. We are not people matriculating to be in the way. You are here to be somebody who is on the way, who only see you are not here to be somebody who is just on the way, let me say, one who just sees this as a necessary evil stop on your way to your plan of taking over the entire world. Sadly, there are some people who will come to a school like this who somehow will remain unchanged, unaffected by what they hear, what they live, how they feel, and the people who have taught them the lessons of life. And I don't mean professors, I mean other students. By the struggles of others, we are just trying to go and be the people. Some of us are just want all of this out of the way. To be of the way is to be committed to the journey. It is then the way itself that transforms us, with all its twists, all its turns, all of its hills and mountains, uncertainties, strangers, and don't forget the desert. So, enjoy this ride from being on your way to theological school to the wondrous transformation of being people of the way. Like the first century churches who left us some breadcrumbs in the forest to follow, we track them and are fueled by our relentless pursuit of love. My ancestors hold me. Their words and their music anchor me. I open my mouth to the Lord, and I won't turn back. I will go, I shall go to see what the end is going to be.
So as you walk into this new chapter of your life journey, I'm gonna invite you to sing this song with me. Guide my feet. Hey, guide my feet. I run this race, yeah. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet. Oh, I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand, hold my hand. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand. Stand by me, yes,
Stand by me while I run this race.
stand by me.
Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race. I'm your child. While I run this race.
Yes, I'm your child.
I'm your child. While I run this race. I'm your child. While I run this race. For I don't want to run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Yeah. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Lakin. I am the Provost and the Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dean Aponte asked me to speak today in that capacity to give you an academic charge as you begin your educational journey as a graduate student in the Drew Theological School. And I promise I will do that, but before I do that, I'm going to take the liberty of the microphone to give you a little context for the charge that I'm going to deliver. Earlier this week, I read a wonderful guest essay in the New York Times that was called College Students, School is Not Your Job. I see some of you have read it as well. So the author was Dr. Jonathan Malesic, who's an essayist. He's an adjunct professor at Southern Methodist University. And the gist of his piece in this particular essay is that college students and their families and their loved ones that support them in that endeavor firmly believe that the purpose of attending college is to get a job. In other words, college is a means to an end, something that must be endured or completed in order to get to the other desired thing, a job, presumably with a high salary, security, and all of those things, which are very important. Many of you probably know that we do have an undergraduate college at Drew, and I would be willing to bet that if we asked some of those students, maybe a lot of those students would say that they are in fact here because ultimately they would like to get a job. And I do understand the practicalities and the necessities of planning for what is after college, but I agree with the main point of Dr. Malesic's article. I quote, "College is a unique time in your life to discover just how much your mind can do. Capacities like an ear for poetry, a grasp of geometry, or a keen moral imagination may not pay off financially, although you never know, but they are a part of who you are. That makes them worth cultivating. But doing so requires a community of teachers and fellow learners. And above all, it requires time. Time to allow your mind to branch out, to grow, and to blossom. It's the last part of that quote that really got me thinking about community, about teachers, about the importance of fellow learners, and about the importance of time. And so as I looked at my calendar this week and I saw that this matriculation celebration was scheduled for tonight, I thought more about the situation at Drew. And while I'm certainly grateful that we have our undergraduate students, regardless of the reason that they are here, we do an excellent job educating them, sending them out into the world to be good, kind, successful people. It is actually you all, our Drew Theological students, who truly appreciate and deeply feel their calling to us. The desire to learn more, to develop professionally, to study a topic that shapes every aspect of your lives and your identities and your contributions to this world. I don't want to be dismissive of what you're going to do after you earn your degree. That's important. But many of you are currently in that job world, or you have been. And I know that you all understand that the value of education and the education that you will receive here is going to enhance every aspect of your lives. So, back to my charge. What is my charge to you as you embark on this new journey? As Dr. Malesic said, branch out, grow, blossom. Of course, because we're Drew, be rooted and innovative and courageous. I can also steal words from my colleague, Dr. Simpson. Be uncomfortable. Take the time to meet your colleagues and develop lasting relationships with them and the wonderful faculty and staff mentors that you're going to have as a student. Pay attention. Think. Be creative. Push yourselves. Be happy. Care. Challenge yourselves. Take a course that you dread. Take a course that surprises you. Take a course that you think you're going to love. Be passionate. Get mad about something that you're learning. But be excited. Test boundaries. Be motivated. Experience joy. And most importantly, take what you learn here and share it with others. Give your knowledge and your experience to your peers here, to your faculty, to your staff, and give what you are learning here to the world, because the world needs that. I wish you all the best as you begin your time at Drew, regardless of where you are, and I can't wait to hear more about your excellent work and all that you will accomplish. Thank you.
We're almost there, I promise. You just have to get through me. The Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Robert Seasongood. And I am standing next to the matriculation book for Drew Theological School. Not a matriculation book, but the matriculation book. The one that in 1861, scurrying around with too many things to do all afternoon, President McClintock pulled off of a shelf and carried out onto the porch and had the new students come in and sign their names and enter into the community. The book that served as the registrar's office for this community for decades. A book that contains the name of hundreds of your predecessors. Some of them quite famous, some of them very accomplished, some of them otherwise unknown, a few of them scoundrels, occasionally an atheist, one or two missionaries, just like you. And I stand here and I can't help but think about other books. It's September. And one of the traditions that many in our community are about to go through, the high holy days for the Jewish year, involve the commemoration of, and they begin with Rosh Hashanah, the birth of the year and the beginning of the earth, and the day in which God, in Talmudic tradition, takes out the book of life, the book in which everyone is inscribed, considers the accounts, and marks down the fate. You have 8 days after that until Yom Kippur, when the book is sealed. Today you're writing down your name, and that will be sealed at some point in time. The story is going to be written by you, but entering into the book is the beginning of your name. The second book I think of is from my colleagues, Jorge Luis Borges, The Book of Sand, in which a common book peddler finds a book that is mysterious and strange. He trades his own collection for it. But the book contains an infinite number of pages, out of order. And deviously, each one that is read can never be found again. They signed their names and are here for a time. We've known one another, some for a little while, some for decades. And we've seen an infinite number of pages go through that we can't pull back. We are their stewards. We are the memory of those pages. And of course, the book traded for that book of sand is a Bible, interestingly enough. And of course, the book of life begins within biblical text. The tradition behind the Jewish holidays in Psalm 139 within the Christian confession, the book of life is the book of those received into heaven that appears in the book of Revelation at the end. But the Bible is an interesting book in and of itself too, isn't it? Written by scores of people. Some names we don't know, some we only know their names, some who left quite a mark. Most who never met, quite a few who wouldn't have liked one another. And that leaves aside the scribes who kept it alive by hand for generations and who taught painstakingly one another to read its languages so that no generation has passed that couldn't read it or reproduce it. It's a book that, in answer to the question, who's written it, has the intriguing answer, no one, and all of us. It's the book for our community. So we stand next to this matriculation book. It is your moment of entry. It is our place of memory. And it is the book of our community, the matriculation book. I'm going to invite you to come and to sign that book in my role as Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, but by the right of the fact that my name is in there under the entering class of 1998. Welcome. Let's hear your story next.
Dabyo Amos. Janice Marie Beauchamp. Cody Beckett. Carrie Lee Farnham. Sanhan Han. Daesun Jang. Nayasha Jaichi. Haeyoung Kim. Samuel Kagwe. Michelle Lamberty. Ji-Ho Lee. Heidi O'Donnell. Josh Phillips. Esther Somp. Lynn A. Van Osdo. William Wesley White. Yeeun So. Francis Osuji. Walter Gubuko Gregogo. Jaewon Kim. Malcolm Sidnor. Adrian Deepak. John Davidson Johnson. Joan Marshall. Yeongrok Lee. Esong Lin Tan. Lisa Jarno. Crystal E. James.
It is now my great privilege to send us forth from this 90-degree day when some of us are wearing some really inappropriate clothing. So now we go. We embark together, not just on the way, but as people of the way. A way that promises to change us. We will be different than when we began. A way shaped by educational commitments and processes that prepare us and those we serve for a life well lived. A way that leads us through the hard work, the uncomfortable work of love and of justice. So go forth. Go on your way, and as you wander and as you wonder, prepare the way of freedom, if only for a little while. May the one who summoned you to this calling go with you and surround you in the love and light as you serve a God who calls you to steward creation in this way. Amen.
We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching, we are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, we are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching, we are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. Siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. Siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. Siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. Siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. Siya hamba, siya hamba, oh, siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. Siya hamba, hamba, siya hamba, oh, siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. 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 Siya hamba, hamba, siya hamba, oh, siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. Siya hamba, hamba, siya hamba, oh, siya hamba, kuka yenkeko. We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching, we are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching. Oh, we are marching in the light of God.